we go. Good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday. I am your host this morning, Nancy Matthews, and I'm one of the founders of Women's Prosperity Network, along with my two sisters, Trish Carr and Susan Winner, and we've created this midweek boost of motivation, education, and inspiration to support you in living your most extraordinary life. And we started this back in 2009. So every Wednesday morning, we've been bringing you amazing business leaders, experts, thought leaders, and today, an amazing spiritual leader, as well as a really smart businesswoman. Let me just say that. So Margaret Leslie is with us today, and we are so grateful for this opportunity to be with Margaret and have her share ancient practices for modern times. And, also often I feel that we are always looking for the latest and greatest, next best thing. What's new? What's exciting? And yes, we want innovation. And yes, we want to always evolve and grow and develop. But if we slow down just a little bit and look back, most of the answers we seek for our highest and best, for our spirits to soar, for the connection with other human beings to happen, have existed since the beginning of time. So I want to introduce you to Margaret E. Leslie, who is a spiritual counselor. She's the president of the Institute of Spiritual Healing and Aromatherapy, and she's with us today. So Margaret, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Nancy. It's always an honor to get to share with the awesome WPN women and men.
I tell you, so an ancient practice would be gratitude, right? That's one of them. Right off the bat. Yeah, definitely one of them. And I must say, I get goosebumps when I think about the women who are a part of our community. And if you're watching this and you're not a part of our community, become a member. Like, you could even join for free. We attract the most brilliant, heart-centered women who are committed to excellence, living their best, being their best, and bringing their best to the world. So I suspect if you're watching this, that's you. So join us, become a member for free. And Margaret and I met, interestingly, at an event in Las Vegas, and you live in Knoxville, Tennessee, right? That was the first time we met, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
At Dan's event. And that was in 2014 or 15, I believe.
15, I think.
And as it happens, so it took two women going to an event in Las Vegas to meet. At the same time, we were just starting a chapter of Women's Prosperity Network in Knoxville, where Margaret happens to live.
Or where my office is, anyway.
Yeah, where your office is. So if you ever question synchronicity and divine intervention, that's an evidence of it right there.
That's right.
Yeah, for sure. So Margaret, let's talk a little bit about some of the things that we can do right now to go back and look, for ancient solutions to modern day problems.
Well, you were talking about thriving in this, this time and the changes and the confusion. And we can go back to this very simple piece of ancient healing. It's the one of touch. And, psychologists say we need touch in order to thrive. And we've been deprived of that quite a bit in this past year and a half. But touch has been part of healing in every culture since the beginning of time. So I would like to relate two stories of healing and touch that come from our biblical history.
Okay, awesome. And if you would, Margaret, speak up just a little bit or get closer to the mic. I want to make sure everyone can hear you.
Okay, is that better? Okay.
I think so. I think so. And just let everybody know, if you see me looking away, I'm managing the chat and the participants and the Facebook comments. So I am here to be of service to everyone who has joined us this morning. So if you have questions as we're sharing today, or comments, you can put them in the chat and the comments below. And then, as I said, we'll open up for question and answer. So Margaret, if you would, you're going to go back to some stories from the Bible, you said, right?
Correct.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. There was a time when Jesus was in this huge crowd of people, and a man came up to him and asked if he could heal his dying daughter. Well, Jesus agreed and started off with this man, with the crowd pressing in and following him. And there were just so many people crowded up against him. But all of a sudden, Jesus stopped, and he felt the energy move out of himself to someone else. So he asked, "Who touched me?" Well, of course, everybody thought that was sort of crazy, because people were touching him all over and up against him. But this was a touch that he was aware of, his energy going out to this person. And it was the bleeding woman. And many of you may be familiar with that story. It's one of the more famous healing stories, and women usually like it. But she'd been bleeding for 12 years and had sought all kinds of help. But she thought, if I can just touch that fringe of Jesus's garment, I will be healed. And
Wow.
and she was. And she knew she was immediately. But this happened actually in the middle of Jesus heading to this man's house to help with the daughter. So how often do we think we're headed in one direction and something takes us in another? And who knows what healing might be there for us or for someone else. So being aware. Now, it wasn't necessary for her to be touched by him, but just being in his presence and energy, she did receive that healing. So at that point, someone came to the man and told him that his daughter had already died and not to bother Jesus. Jesus said, "No, she's just sleeping," and went anyway. And in this story, he touched the child and took her by the hand and raised her up. Well, how often has someone's touch raised you up from a dead place? A place where you might be in deep grief or trauma or depression. So the touch is so powerful.
I've got goosebumps all over as you're sharing this, because we have been like robbed of touch for months, many of us for 18 months. And I can tell you, like, when my grandchildren come over, they were just here this weekend, like, I don't want to let go. I don't want to let go when they're with me. And so returning to touch is healing. It brings love, it brings embrace. And I believe you have a little more on that story, and then I want to break down some of the lessons that I heard in that as well.
Okay. Well, so I want you to think about those things. So where we're in that place of centeredness, that place of love, of keeping our energy field strong, our very presence might be healing for someone. Sometimes we don't even know that we've touched a person in that way. I remember a time, I was a school psychologist for 25 years, and I was attending the opening meeting for the school year for the personnel, and there was a speaker, and she happened to be the president of the PTA, and I had worked with her about some issues she had with a very handicapped son years before that. And she got up, and in her speech, she announced, Margaret Leslie, a psychologist in this system, saved my life when she helped me deal with the issues of my son. I just sat there dumbfounded. I had no idea that she felt that strongly about the work we had done. So you never know how you might touch someone with just the everyday things that you do, or things you don't even think about. But when you're passionate and in that place and totally involved with them.
Mhm. Well, that's a beautiful story. And I think it leads to us taking on the responsibility that our energy, like your way of being and working with her son and working with her those many, many moons ago, who you brought, who you were, and what you brought to that, in addition to your skills and your knowledge, is what saved her life. It was your loving way of being. And if we think about, the story you shared where Jesus is walking through and all this woman who was bleeding for all these years had to do was touch the garment. It was because of what he brought,
Right.
what was that beingness. So I think we have a responsibility to remember that we are who we're being, how we're feeling, what our energy is, what our attitude is impacting the people that we meet and touch all the time.
That is so true, Nancy.
Yeah, I heard this story a couple of years ago from Jennifer from a school board up in New York where we were doing the One Philosophy. And she said, imagine that you are walking around holding, here, I have it right here, look, holding a cup of coffee and it's filled to the brim and it's hot and steamy. Like, when you feel hot and steamy, you're walking around with a cup of coffee and you can spill it on the person next to you. But if your cup of coffee is cool and loving and delicious and you spill that on people, like that's a different experience. Like what we fill our cup with is what's reaching out to all the people around us.
That's a beautiful way of expressing that.
Mm-hmm.
Janet Menken, who was the founder of the original Healing Touch program, said that when you stay filled with love, you leave a puddle of love in each footstep. And what about walking around in Walmarts and leaving those puddles? That was one of her favorite things to.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Well, so this is, somebody might be listening in and think, well, that's great, but I can't do that all the time. Or this thing happened, or that thing happened to me. And, my business is down. My health is unwell. Like there's a myriad of challenges and problems that people experience where it may be difficult to tap into that healing love to be able to, have your presence make a positive impact on other people. So do you have some suggestions, practical ways we can do that, create that shift?
Truly, that is the issue, because when we're in a moment of anger or disappointment or whatever, we do have the ability to switch. But we have to know we have the ability, number one. Number two, we have to do it and take, and the more lessons we learn in how to do that, the better off we are. So I'm going to give you a simple formula to bathe yourself in that presence of love and oneness.
Well, first of all, I need to drink that in. I want to bathe myself in that presence, that feeling of oneness. Like that, just thinking of that aspect, that experience calms me to start with. So that was great. So show me how to bathe in this.
Okay, well, breathe. And I used to write little notes that said breathe and drop them on the tables or the desks of teachers all the time. Because I'd walk in the room and you'd see him breathing right up here. And it was like, breathe. A is for awareness. Just tune in to where you are in that moment, what's going on with you. And then T is for touch. But this is touching your feet, feeling your feet connected to the earth and grounding yourself. Because when we're not grounded, we certainly cannot maintain a place of love and oneness.
Yeah.
Get scattered.
Let me share on that one. So, and recap. So when you're feeling, that angry cup of coffee or upset or worried or any of those things, bathe in that feeling of oneness by first breathing, taking some slow breaths, intentional breaths, rather than, right? When we're upset, we tend to breathe really fast. So slow down your breath. Become aware of what it is that you're feeling. T is to touch the ground and get grounded. And I'll share, full disclosure, I woke up this morning and I have a lot on my to-do list. I'm getting ready to go away on vacation. So I was all in my head, like that going on. And I wasn't feeling grounded. So I stopped, knowing you and I, having learned this from you, I stopped and put my feet on the ground and just stood still with my eyes closed. And I imagined the energy going from the bottom of the soles of my feet down through the floor, into the ground, into the earth, all the way down through the core of the earth. And let me tell you that it took less than a minute, my whole state changed. So that grounding that she's talking about is huge.
And Nancy, I think I was right there with you because I was in the kitchen this morning and did exactly the same thing.
Oh my gosh, I was in my kitchen when I did it. Never done it there before like that. I was making coffee and I was like, ooh, I need something. Wow.
That thought went through my head also. It's like, okay, Margaret, you've got to get yourself grounded and in tune and connected before you get on this call. So that's exactly
more synchronicities. And
that's right.
So I want to point this out to the audience, and then we'll continue with the rest of how we bathe in this. Paying attention to these little synchronicities is also, I think, a really important piece. Like when we can look for why people are connected or how the connections happen, or just these little things that bring our human experience closer together, we'll realize that we're not that different. A lot of the things that cause stress in our lives and in relationships with others is the differences we see rather than the sameness that we look for. So I love that. Yeah.
Nice.
Okay, so we're gonna touch our feet to the ground. After we breathe, get awareness, touch our feet to the ground, and the letter H.
We hold healing love in our hearts. And when you focus on that and just even thinking the words shifts things. So
I hold healing love in my heart. Good.
And then
if you're feeling this and you're watching on Facebook, tell me in the comments, like, go through this experience, or if you're here with us on the line, go ahead and share with us, because personally, just going through this and having this conversation is bringing me to a greater state of connectedness, oneness, and peace. So what are you feeling? Tell me in the comments. Healing, Darlene is saying. Yes.
Yeah. And the last letter is E. And with that, holding the healing love in your heart, you then use that and energize the space around you with this love. So you're standing in a bubble of love, which protects from other energies, which can ignite other energies. We know in heart math, where you are influences those around you. So when you're in this space, anyone that comes into your field is actually touched with this energy.
Absolutely.
It's like touching that garment.
That just the
down
print.
of the garment.
Right.
So, yeah, and don't just do the breathing in the middle, in the beginning. It sort of goes in each part of it, of breathing in each one of those things. So you're bathing yourself in the breath, and breath is life.
Yes. Yes. Margaret, so thank you for that. And I will, at moments of times of, angst or stress or upset, I'm going to choose to bathe in this love and light and oneness. So if you're going to bathe in oneness, put it down below. Let's bathe. Like, imagine a world where we all are doing this. What if we all could learn? And I let me just say, I have faith in humanity. I believe that humankind can find their way back to be more loving and kind with one another. And the reason I believe that is I have seen it in all of relationships, all the people that I've met, no matter how downtrodden, how angry, how upset, there's a glimmer in there. There's a glimmer in there. And it's my responsibility to bring more love and light. So imagine when we all bathe in this. Like, who wants to live in that world? I know I do. And it's up to us each individually and then collectively to create it. That's right. Kate says me. Roz says me. Bathing in oneness. That's what we want to do.
No, and it's a practice that gets better the more we practice. It's always a choice. And as you have more tools, you have more choices that you can rely on. Years ago, I realized that whatever I am, however I am in the moment, is what I am sending out on the grid to other people.
All right, say that again. That was big.
However I am, whatever I am in the moment, I am sending out on the grid to other people. Not just, we're all connected. We are all one. And I realized if I was angry at someone, or if I was fearful of something that might be going on, for instance, with my son at that time, that's what I was sending to him, was my fear.
Mm.
If there was one thing in this world he did not need at the time, was fear. He already had enough of his own stuff. And it was like, it was my responsibility to stop, do whatever technique I needed to do with myself to return to that place of love and groundedness, and then visualize sending that out to him. And that was a real eye-opener. I was out walking under trees at the time. I'll never forget when that came through. And it was like, and for me, walking under trees is one way to renew my
getting
life source. Yes. And so sometimes does that click in? Of course not. I'm definitely human.
That's but here, yeah.
But the more I have practiced it, the easier it is to say, wait, stop. This is not what I want to send out to other people. What do I need to do to get into what I want out in the world?
I absolutely love that. The simplicity of the clarity, then it takes a commitment to do it, right? And believing in this, that whatever I'm feeling is what I'm putting out and adding to the grid, as you said, of collective consciousness and the whole energy makeup, right?
Right.
And it's interesting that you shared a story of how you had an awakening and awareness around this as it relates to your son, because so did I. And I don't think
We've never discussed that.
never discussed that. So my son, who happens to be his birthday, happy birthday, Zach Matthews, if you happen to be watching.
And my son is Matthew also, and his birthday is in June also.
Wow. So he was going through a really tough time, and I was worried about him. I was angry at him. Like, this is not the child I raised. It was like, what are the decisions you're making? And I was so fearful and worried. And my very dear friend at the time, Billiana, said to me, well, what are you feeling towards him? And I was feeling angry, scared, and she's not having respect for him at the time. Like, there was all those yucky feelings going on. And she said, can you find a way to feel love towards him? And I was like, oh yes, absolutely, I do love him, I want the best for him. And when I learned to emanate love towards him, first of all, our relationship changed. The conversations that we're having, like, we get to be in charge of what the flow of the energy is in those conversations. So it wasn't long after that that his life dramatically changed and improved. So I, this story that we're sharing, if you're listening and you're having a challenge with a relationship or a person in your life or a circumstance even, and you're feeling angry, upset, hurt, disappointed, any of those types of things that are not of love, know that feeling those things. Yeah, you need to process your emotions. Please do not deny the processing of your emotions, but process them to shift back to love by bathing yourself in this oneness. That's one of the tools that you can use.
So true. Another I did was visualization. And I would see my son as laughing, as happy, and I would put him in this huge bubble, like those things that they now go down ski slopes and all in those big bubbles and roll around in, or
Yep.
heavenly places. But I would see this big turquoise bubble around him and him rolling around happy. And that would also shift me away from all those other things.
The other thoughts. Good. Good.
So,
So we're coming up on the halfway point. We're going to open up for questions. So we'd love to hear from you. Any questions or additions to practices that you might want to share. So I'll open the lines up in just a moment. And Margaret, this spiritual healing touch and aromatherapy, this is your life's work.
yeah.
And so tell us a little bit about the Institute of Spiritual Healing, this healing touch place that we got started from. That healing touch is an ancient practice, so we want to bring that back. And yes, we want to be safe and all that goes with it. And touch. So tell us a little bit about what the Institute is about, what's coming up that our audience could participate in.
Well, we are going to have a free seminar about using your hands to heal, which gets into self-care and some little techniques you can use with others. Easy techniques for staying centered in divine love, so that you can bring more healing to yourself and to others. And that is, in a nutshell, what the Institute of Spiritual Healing and Aromatherapy is about. Our desire is to bring it back into all households, into everybody's toolkit, that they have these tools for themselves, even in the aromatherapy, which is another type of vibrational medicine. Mm-hmm. But we are an educational program, and we offer continuing ed to nurses and massage therapists. And we also have national and international certification in these areas. But there's one class that I think everybody on this planet took that one class, we'd be a different planet.
All right, well, tell me about that.
It is the one that really contains the heart techniques of the program. They're the most used internationally in all the healing touch programs, either for animals or for humans. Um, and they're powerful. I use them every day. Um, there's many are simple and always self first. It's like putting on your face mask of oxygen. Um, when I first learned one of the techniques that we teach in the program, I did it every day on myself for 2 years. And it's certainly changed my life because that was a very difficult time in my life. And I still call upon it sometimes if I can't sleep, sometimes if it's one that I use to recenter myself if I am angry with someone or if I'm disappointed in something that's going on or afraid of something that is going on. Then I can use that because it brings me back to that real core center place. And that's my dream, my wish, my passion, my journey is bringing those kind of skills in as simple ways to as many people as possible.
I love it. I love it. So, and when we come to the class on July 6th, so it's July 6th, I put the link in the chat for those of you on the phone. Let me share what that link is. So you go to, it's a short link. So bit.ly/HTSM now, which stands for Healing Touch Spiritual Ministry now. So bit.ly/HTSM now, and that's all lowercase. So this class that you're doing on July 6th, Stacy's already signed up. It's going to be amazing. Are we going to learn this technique that you just shared with us or get a glimpse of it?
You're going to get a glimpse of it. Honestly, I think it may be one of the techniques I added at the end. But there are several meditations and other techniques that you're learning throughout. And that particular technique can be done on self or others or two people on one person. Mm-hmm. And so it is just an excellent tool for your self-care toolkit and
for others.
Helping toolkit.
Beautiful. And I love that. I think you shared that classes, you're an educational facility sharing these tools. And you mentioned that nurses and massage therapists can get continuing education credits. And here's something that I love is that so many nurses that I've spoken with, and I see Barbara's on the line today too, and she's a nurse as well, and she found out about Reiki, which is another healing modality and energy healing modality in the hospital, the facility she was working at. So I love that modern times are bringing these ancient practices of energy healing together. And I think there was too long of a time where they were separate from each other. And it's the coupling of them, the combining of science and spirituality that brings us back to wholeness. Like, use the technology and, all the advancements we've had, but don't forget what's underneath.
I say amen to that. That is so
Awesome. Let me check in and see if we have any questions. So if you'd like to ask a question, you can share that either in the chat or hit *6 and unmute yourself, and we'll be happy to take your questions. Put something in the chat. Let me go to Roz, who has a question. So, Roz, you can go ahead and unmute yourself, and then I'll bring on Betsy.
Hey, Miss Margaret, you are loved, appreciated, celebrated, valued, and most cherished. I appreciate this. My heart is concerned. I do a show on in the evenings, collaborating sisters and brothers, and one of my sisters was on there because my promise card discussed hugs, and she was concerned because she said she would only take a hug from her mother, but she was wanting to hear suggestions and concerns about how to be open to hugs and that it didn't have anything to do with the pandemic. So I wanted to see if you had one suggestion, and I wanted to get permission. I am going to invite her to the Wild Wednesdays. Do I have permission to tell and share with her about the July 6th function?
Oh, please do. Yes.
Okay.
What comes to mind is a person I worked with who did what I call the A-frame hug, where they move their body as far away from you as possible and sort of lean forward and pat you on the back, and that's it. And I was working with her, and in my prayer, I said, I've never met another person that needed a hug more than this person and needed touch, because she felt like stone to me. And I did a simple technique that it's called the Scudder technique, actually. It came from Dr. Scudder, who was actually a minister, but he did it with his clients in counseling. And at the end of it, she had tears rolling down her cheeks and reached out and hugged me a true hug and said, I saw the hem of Jesus' garment.
Wow, that's awesome.
And reached up and touched it. Did I know that was going on? Heavens no. I just knew in my heart what my prayer was for her, what my intention was for her to be open to God's love. And that is what happened. So
I've got goosebumps from that story.
Yeah, just sharing these kind of things. And sometimes it's just holding someone's hand and allowing, with intention, of that love flowing to them.
Thank you, Miss Margaret. I'll share that. I'm going to go right now and go copy this link and send it over to her in reference to that question that she had. You have a great, God, amazing day. Thank you. And I'll see you on July 6th.
Oh, I look forward to seeing you.
Beautiful, beautiful. And you know what? Thank you, Roz, for bringing that up, because whether it's COVID or something else may have happened, if you've experienced, physical trauma in your life, maybe you don't want people touching you. Like I didn't grow up in a very physically embracing environment. So I took lessons on hugs as I got older from my friend. I'm like, oh, look, they hug each other in that family. Like we just didn't grow up that way. And what you just said, like just take somebody's hand and intend, like, because most people can touch a hand. And what a great beginning for someone who may be feeling a little afraid to do that full embrace, whether it's like I said, whether it's related to COVID or something else that might be going on. But can you touch a hand and send your love out through your arm into their fingertips? Like, oh, that is beautiful, my friend. And this is just a little bit of what you're going to get when you join Margaret on July 6th. So the link is bit.ly/HTSM now, NOW. So HTSM now, all one word, all lowercase. Go ahead and register. I see we've got several people that have already registered to join you on July 6th. That is fabulous. Let me go ahead and take some more questions. Betsy Rossum, you can open your line. Where's my Betsy?
Here I am. I'm here.
Hello.
Good morning. Thank you so much, Margaret, for such a yummy conversation. I love it. I remember my first experience with Healing Touch after I had surgery. I had a massage therapist come over and give it to me, and it was amazing how much it helped with the healing process. I had an aha moment. It's been about a year ago with the heart space, and I remember growing up Catholic and seeing the picture of Jesus with this sacred heart. And all of a sudden, I knew what it meant. I finally knew I never knew what it meant as a kid. They never explained it because, whatever. But it was like, we are supposed to be thinking, we're taught to feel with our heart and think with our heads. And I really think we need to think with our hearts. And feelings aren't facts. So, go to the head and feel the feelings and look at the perception that caused that feeling. Then drop it down to that thinking heart. And what's really cool is recently they have found neurotransmitters in our hearts, which is like it's a little mini brain. Hello.
Yes.
So when you said that, I'm like, and I remember as a Unity prayer chaplain, it was always drop down to that heart space first. And it is grounding ourselves and going to that heart space and connecting and sending divine love. And it's important that we send it from that space, because we're not depleting our own energy then. If we just send our love out to everybody, we're going to deplete our own energy. But if we connect to that higher power, that sacred space in our hearts, and come from that space, there's always plenty. So thank you for this conversation, because you're just so needed. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Betsy, because you just put the words that we often use in the classroom too, of yes, it's not our energy that we are sending out. It's that connection, and we are just the conduit or the transmitter of the energy. And if you notice, when energy is coming and electricity is coming through a wire, and we are like that wire, it comes through us first. So guess what we get? The benefit before we even send it out to the next person.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah, and so you aren't depleted. Often I'm more energized after several sessions than I was before I started doing the sessions, rather than depleted.
Yes.
So thank you for pointing that out. That's awesome.
Yeah, and here's the thing is you have to send it out, because it's like you don't want to overload the circuit. Because if you think about electricity and you don't send it out, the reserves stock up and you overload the circuit. So we are required to share it.
Yeah, we got to keep it in flow. Beautiful. All right, Betsy.
If it's okay with you, I may use that. That was
Hey.
We're all in this together. And Betsy, I'm getting real strong. If the two of you, if you and Margaret haven't connected individually, you're supposed to.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
That's pretty clear. All right, thank you, Betsy.
Thank you.
Awesome. I'm going to go ahead and go to our next caller in just a moment. Just reminding everybody to join Margaret on July 6th. She's hosting a free class, and she normally charges for this, by the way. And I was talking with her and I was like, how about we, let's bring people in? And she's like, absolutely. Like, it was a clear yes. Of course we want to do this now. So I'll share this too. Let me ask a question. When they come to the class, you'll have an amazing experience and for this free online event. And then the classes that you do, I'm curious, if I was to take one of your classes, your trainings, would I now have practices that I can use with other people? Like, am I going to get skilled in something that I can bring to my clientele?
Definitely. Especially our Healing Touch Spiritual Ministry 103, which we have one coming up, and it has no prerequisites. The 101 and 102 are more history oriented, and the simple laying on of hands, and using biblical oils and stuff. But that class does contain the meat of the techniques.
The 103.
The 103.
Beautiful. Yeah. So for those of you who are in the healing arts or curious about getting into it, and want to bring more tools, as it were, to serve the clients you have, like I'm thinking about clients who are going through a really challenging time, and maybe they're in therapy or they can't get motivated, like whatever's going on, like these healing tools will heal the spirit, which helps heal the human being. So thank you for clarifying that for me. All right, we got more questions. Let me open up for Darlene. Good morning. Your line is open, Darlene. You might need to hit *6 on your phone. I think I've got you unmuted. Darlene, are you there? Let me try one more time. Darlene? Not yet.
It unmuted and remuted.
I've got it clicked for her to unmute, but for some reason that's not working. All right, anyone else? Darlene, hopefully you'll be able to come in and join us to ask your question, or if you want to post it in the chat, we would be able to answer it that way. Any other questions, comments, hit *6 and we will have you come on board. Here's another one. Let's see here. 407 895. Your line should be able to unmute yourself. There we go.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Hi, thank you. Thank you very much, Nancy. And this is Sherry. I am so extremely grateful to be able to have the time today to tune in to your broadcast. I love your message and what you're facilitating. I worked in body-mind medicine at MD Anderson Cancer Center, and I had 5 hospitals that I worked with patients as a therapeutic musician and healing arts specialist. And, the thing was, the nurses used to always tell me, I know they're going to want you to touch them. You're touching them with your music, and don't touch their body, right? And then when I work with kids, they'll say, don't get into touching their bodies. And then when I look at my own history of being touched, I know in my gut that massage therapy and healing art therapy and all that is great, but I was violated, and I have a hard time being touched. And I wondered if, with all this history of, oh my God, now I need to be touched, how do I even begin? I did hear you say a few things, but is there another little trick that I can do to allow myself to begin to be touched in a safe manner?
Yes. And actually, my clientele were people who had been abused, sexually abused, physically abused, and that is who I worked with. I was a developmental play therapist in the school system, working with children, and we used touch greatly in bringing them out of whatever they were with. But in my own practice, I have worked. And one of the beauties of this work is it can be done without touching. And I have had clients who could not handle being touched initially. And so I would do the techniques without touching. What I have found, I volunteered at a retreat center with women in recovery, is after a while they were more open to the touch because they were fully clothed, unlike massage, which was more felt to be invasive. And it was a different touch, and but they could feel the touch even when I was working off body, and would at the end feel like it felt almost like I just had a massage and you didn't even touch me.
Yeah.
And so that to me was bringing it in gently and slowly and at a level that the person could handle it. And I had some clients later that used to just walk in and hug me, this great big hug that I wasn't sure would ever allow touch. And then they were touching me. So
Sounds like it's a process, kind of like
it is definitely a process.
And don't force it, right? So that's what I'm hearing you say. It's okay, touch, and that goes back to what you said a little while ago. But can you hold someone's hand?
Mm-hmm.
And
it's practicing touching a child that you are safe with.
Yes.
It's a good beginning. It's a good way to recognize the okayness because you're safe for them and vice versa. But I do understand the safety factor.
Well, and Cheryl, I'm glad that you brought this up because obviously you're not alone in having this experience. And it also reminds me that in the last several years, we have to be very careful about how we touch, right? We're in a very litigious, lawsuit-driven society. And because so many, improper ways of touching people have happened, like, people are hesitating. I shouldn't be touching. Should I be hugging? Right? That could, there's a lot around it. So this healing touch, spiritual, that I think is our path back home.
Yeah, and realize you're not touching everyone. You're not allowing everyone to touch you, no matter what. I mean, you stay in tune to that gut level of okayness. And so I know for many abused people, they can't touch their own body, much less someone touch them or them. And sometimes it just starts with a hand massage for yourself or something real easy like that, or a foot massage, or, as you put your lotion on, just be nice to yourself.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Cheryl, thank you so much.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for being there. I certainly appreciate your input. Okay. Awesome. Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. And thank you for being with us. And again, I'll share the link to register for the event on July 6th is bit.ly/HTSM now, which stands for Healing Touch Spiritual Ministry Now. So go to bit.ly/HTSM now. And let me check to see, Darlene, if you're able to unmute yourself. We'd love to hear from you. We've got some great comments on in the Facebook group as well. So see, Simone is with us there, and she says, my mama's touch has healing properties. I can't begin to explain it, but she had healing hands.
Many people do. Yes. Thank you, Simone. One thing I would like to say, if any of you are not members of WPN, when I met Nancy and she told me about it coming, and Nancy was one, I always smoke over a group of people I'm going to be in and sort of pick out, I think I'd like to get to know them better, or I'd like to get to know them better, or whatever. Nancy was the first person that I went, I want to know her better. And we ended up in our first interactive group together. And then when she told me about WPN, I signed up as a lifetime member right there on the spot while we were there. And I do not regret that in any way. So, just saying.
Thank you for that. Yeah, thank you for that. Like I said when we started today, this community is extraordinary. So, and we're always here to lift one another up, and I think that's part of the message that you bring, Margaret, is our responsibility, and not only our responsibility, but our ability. And like I like to refer to it, I read this somewhere, my ability to respond. So that's what responsibility means to me, is my ability to respond. So I have a responsibility to respond with love, to lift up my sister that's next to me and my brothers, right? We can do this when we come together in these ways.
True.
Beautiful.
So true and beautifully.
All right, my friend, Margaret, all my friends that are out there with us, joining us, whether you're live or catching the replay, remember, whatever's in your cup is going to spill over. So fill your cup with love, with healing, with spirituality, with that oneness. Join Margaret on July the 6th. Fill your cup. Any final thoughts, my friend?
I just want to thank you for allowing me to be here and share. And I thank all the people. I've watched some of the comments go across in the chat. I can't shift to deal with them, but thank you for your comments. And I so look forward to interacting more. And it is my passion. And,
Clearly.
and so I feel honored anytime anyone wants to learn, or anytime I'm allowed to work with anyone. To me, it is an honor and a privilege to be allowed into that space. So thank you.
Beautiful. You are most welcome. I appreciate you. I love you. I am bathing in that love and in that oneness. Get out there and bathe in that oneness as well. Have a beautiful day, everybody. Bye, Margaret. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.
You're welcome.